Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome again to the wolf that dwells with the lamb. Growing up as a Mennonite, I never dreamed I would be in California, Southern California. And as I've been in California and observing the different things of California, some thoughts have been coming to my mind that I want to share with you, especially if you're an African friend or if you live in Africa. Take note. So when observing California and looking at the landscape, the terrain, I am reminded of Africa. I've been to Africa actually 3 times, and it reminds me so much of Africa because it's such a fruitful land. I mean, they grow fruit here. They grow all kinds of fruits here, something we can't do up north where I live. And it's the same fruits, a lot of the same fruits that they have in Africa. And you have green areas like Africa, the hills are green, and you also have areas where it's very dry and desert-like, and it just reminds me of Africa. But I notice that California is known to be a very liberal, very sinful, one of the most wicked states in the whole of United States. And I thought, that's no coincidence. That is very interesting, because in California you have Hollywood. California is known to be a democratic country. They are Democrats here, most of the people, and the government has a lot of control. But when considering this, I was reminded of my friends in Africa and all the people who have said to me, take me to America, take me to Canada. They want to visit these countries, they want to live in these countries. It's a glorious land to them. But what they do not know is that people who live in a country like Africa that is developed, that is beautiful, with beautiful houses, and where everything is easy, those people turn to be some of the most wicked people because they have everything they need and they have a lot of time in their hands, idleness, and it turns into Sodom and Gomorrah. And this is very unfortunate, but this is the way it is. And I always tell people, why do you want to go? Why do you want to go to America? What is there for you? If you go to America and you don't have a relationship with God that is as solid as a rock, you are going to fall and lose your salvation. And this is why I would, not with a clear conscience, I would have a very hard time taking Africans to America. I prefer Africa above America. Now people see all the glamour, they see all the glory here, but they don't realize that the people here are in bondage to sin, and not only to sin, but to the government. In Africa, the people are much more free. They are free. Yes, they do struggle. They struggle for their daily food, and they struggle to feed their children. But that struggle is a better struggle than the struggle that the people have here. Over here, it is very hard to live without going into debt, without owing money to the bank or the government. And when you owe money, you have no freedom. You have to work, you have to make money, you're in bondage. You have chains around you, and that is the case with almost all Americans. In fact, that is why me personally, I have decided not to buy anything here unless the Lord miraculously reveals and miraculously does something, because I know that if I buy a place like that house behind me in California, everything is expensive. If I buy a place, I have to borrow money from the bank, and as a result, I have to work. My freedom is gone. The Bible says, owe no man anything. And so in this case, Africa is way better than in America. If I ever own a place, in my mind it's going to be in Africa, even though the lifestyle is far more primitive, Even though I don't have all the comfort, I don't want comfort. Comfort destroys people. Inside of your comfort zone, you lose your salvation. You do not grow. So brothers and sisters, I want you to consider this. Because what profits it a man if he gains the whole world but loses his own soul? That is my question to you. And one last thing before I end this video. I have talked to several people who have been here for like 5-10 years. And not only I have talked to several people, but I have friends who have talked to them. People who are from Africa, who come from a primitive, poor lifestyle, and they live here in America for 5-10 years, and almost all of them, not quite all of them, but a lot of them would tell you, I would be ashamed to tell my parents back in Africa the sins that I do over here in America and the things that I do. And then many of them who even are successful here in America, they say, after a few years, I'm going back to Africa. And they tell you why. And because in Africa, they have more freedom. The people are more social there. There's not as much depression. You don't deal with debt. And it's just a much better, even though it's poor, it's a better system than here in America. Not only this, I want you to note that, but not only this, the Bible says in the book of Revelation chapter 13 verse number 11 that John saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, but he spake as a dragon. Now when you study the Bible, a beast in the Bible represents a kingdom or a nation. And when you study the Bible closely, and I will give you more information in a future video, that beast in Revelation chapter 13, starting from verse number 11, is none other than the United States of America. And this can be very clearly shown from the Bible. And it says that at the end, the United States speaks as a dragon, which means that the United States is going to become a socialist, kind of like a communist country where the government has control over everything. And it is fast heading that direction. So brothers and sisters, considering all this, learn the lesson of Paul that I have learned in whatsoever state I am, and whatsoever country I am, whether it be the United States or Africa, whether it be Canada, whether it be whatever it might be, I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. Therewith to be content. Fight the good fight of faith, and do not fight for the physical materials, the possessions, the earthly possessions that perish, but rather fight for that which lasts everlasting, which lasts for all eternity. Fight for that which will benefit you for all eternity. So brothers and sisters, may the Lord be with you, and please consider these things. Until next time, God bless. Wait. Don't go just yet. I have one more thing to tell you. When I realized this, when I realized the wickedness of California and think of Africa, I realized that it is actually in mercy that God has kept Africa in poverty. Now, that may sound harsh and extreme and maybe not very nice, but if Africa was like California, God would long have had to destroy the whole earth. Over there, they at least have a hunger and a thirst and are open for spirituality and spiritual things. And even though there is a lot of wickedness that goes on there, it's different than California. And there is still hope because they have a need, and they see their need that only Christ can supply. Whereas over here, people do not see their need. So that's the very last thought I wanted to give you.